Hello, everyone. I'm Shashi, and welcome to the first episode of my weekly podcast, e-logue. The year 2020 has been quite rocky for us since the outbreak of coronavirus. This year has rattled and left us clueless. It's been about 6 months and a little more since the lockdown started. And within these 6 months, we have been through a lot, and each one's experience has been different. In today's episode, we'll be listening to one of the stories of lockdown. So get ready to welcome our first guest, Sumer Saxena, a bright young gentleman who's always bubbling with energy. Welcome, Sumer, to my podcast.
Thank you so much. It is indeed my pleasure to be in this podcast, and I cannot wait to share my views on today's topic.
It's good to hear that. How are you today?
I'm absolutely fine. Things are better amidst the lockdown. Of course, things went pretty bad. Stuff wasn't normal, but things did progress well, and it has been really good today. I did go out for some time for a break, and I'm back for the podcast.
Good. Um, Now everybody must be a little curious to know, who this Sumer Saxena is. So why don't you tell us something about yourself?
Well, of course, as you mentioned, to all the listeners who are listening, hello guys, good afternoon. My name is Sumer, and if I have to talk about my hobbies, whenever someone asks something about someone, generally people start with the hobbies, so I start with my hobbies as well. My hobbies include photography and some sort of basic editing of videos. Um, Photography is something which has always, I've always adored photography in particular. It is something which has kept me busy. I do love to take some scenic photos, whether it's of some scenic points or whether it's of general things in general. And as far as the editing is concerned, I am not into complete videography. It's just that when I used to play games on the PlayStation, that was something which I used to spend time on back in the day. I always used to edit my clips, because of which I learned basic editing. So I transformed that basic editing techniques into the general perspective of editing certain videos or certain clips, whether it's of animals or whether it's of someone traveling somewhere. So, trying to defade or fade a certain audio clip. So, all these basic things I was able to learn, and I was able to bring that finesse in this during this lockdown period. I was able to practice that. And besides my hobbies, if I have to talk about anything in specific, the I in person really like love to travel, and that is that one thing which gives me the most pleasure. Traveling has been something which I guess most of the people would love to do. I mean, we all love to travel, but me as a person, traveling is very important for me. Whether it's going to somewhere close, within the 50 kilometers range, or even in the triple digit mark. So that's something which is really important for me.
Okay. So I'm sure this lockdown has affected your traveling. So how do you feel since you're not able to travel to different places?
Well, that's absolutely true. I can't deny the fact that lockdown has had a great impact on me, especially on traveling, as you mentioned. Traveling, of course, it's utmost necessary for all of us to take the necessary precautions if we step out of our houses. And the long distance travel is certainly quite not possible during this COVID situation. Whether it's traveling by road, or whether it's traveling by the means of airplane or the trains. Of course, people may say that you can travel from your car because there is no source of intervention, but people may also forget that when you're traveling from your car, you need to take those certain breaks. And where will you take the break? There is the nature's call, of course, and the people love when I mean travelers like us. We all love to stop at a particular so-called hotel. It's not a hotel. To all the listeners, I guess you all know what a dhaba is. So that is something which is quite missing, and it's not possible to for us to travel. Yes, I'm 100% sure that we all go for the the so-called under 50-kilometer range travel, which is basically a small ride to somewhere. So okay. Yeah, I forgot to mention this for all the listeners listening. I'm from Ranchi. So from here, from Ranchi, the nearest place where a person can travel like a good coverage is Ramgarh. It's like 48 kilometers from Ranchi. So that is one of the places where people can go. Maybe grab a cup of coffee or tea and get some break. I mean, seriously, the lockdown has had a great impact on us, and it's very necessary for us humans to get that break. Otherwise, the so-called mental stress develops, and honestly speaking, mental stress, anxiety or depression, it may sound very fancy, these terms, but it's very common. People don't even know when they go through it. Many people don't know, and some people who get to know what it is, they can relate to me what I'm talking of.
Okay, to which all places have you traveled, Sumer?
During the lockdown period.
No, no, before the lockdown started.
Can I mention any specific country or city?
Anything, whichever. I mean, you can talk.
For me, yeah. So for me, the most memorable trips, of course, except the Northeast, that is the one area which I really love. It's beautiful. There are countries I have been pretty lucky to travel to many countries outside India. So for me, the most memorable trips have been to the States, Singapore, the UK, Scotland, and of course Dubai. Dubai being the connection city almost to all the other countries. I've been to Dubai many a time, and if I have to take one country's name in specific, I would say Scotland. Scotland is, of course, it's near UK. It's near London. Sorry, Glasgow. That is. So when I was in Glasgow, there is a place called Edinburgh, which is near Glasgow. You could take a train called Virgin Trains over there, which is quite a good train to take because of the scenic route it has. And Edinburgh is especially famous for the old architectural type buildings. And if people like me, who is a student of history, would love to travel something like that, where you can see the old architectural styles and maybe get influence from such styles.
Okay. Uh, any place in India, like, which has been memorable for you, or you remember, or you have some fond memories of that particular place?
Yes, sure. I know many of us students may name Goa because it's a place where people tend to have a lot of fun. But Goa has been a place in India which I really am fond of because there are beaches, and I in particular love beaches a lot. So there are many resorts near the beaches in Goa, whether it's of Club Mahindra, whether it's of the Hotel Taj Group, or it's of the Oberoi Group. But if one is able to stay in one of those places which has a resort attached to, which has a beach attached to it, I bet they're going to have a lot of fun. Well, talking about a specific memory in India as such, of a place, I would say Bangalore. Now, Bangalore, why I named Bangalore is because first of all, my grandparents, they live in Bangalore. So my daddy not being there, I always tend to have fun in Bangalore because of my grandfather. And Bangalore is one such place which has amazing climate. And one fond memory I definitely remember of Bangalore is that there's a place called Sakleshpur which is near Bangalore, and there is the you can of course take a car and go on a good road trip to Sakleshpur. So my journey from Bangalore to Sakleshpur was quite memorable. There are very good resorts in Sakleshpur as well, and that trip is very special for me because it was a long trip with my grandfather after a very long time, a road trip.
Okay, when was this?
This was 2016.
Okay. And I think you celebrated your grandfather's birthday just recently. When was
Oh, yes, absolutely. His birthday was yesterday itself. He turned 84.
Wow. A very
Yeah.
happy birthday to him.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so once this lockdown will be over, which is the first place you'd like to visit?
Honestly speaking, it has to be Bangalore. Although my grandfather is with me, has been with me during the lockdown period and is still with me right now.
Okay.
I would like to go back to Bangalore because it's just the vibes. You know,
Mhm.
the Bangalore's vibes is just amazing. The commercial street in Bangalore again. There are certain places in Bangalore which can never be replaced. It is just too good. Bangalore, in particular, is one of those metropolitan cities which I would love to spend time in. And the daily evening rains is something which is very famous in Bangalore, right? Bangalore is known as the Garden City,
Yeah.
and nothing can replace the fact that the daily rains every evening and the good weather with a cup of tea and so-called pakoras in India is really a match. So Bangalore, yeah, definitely.
Well, I hope that you get this chance to visit Bangalore along with your grandfather and relive those memories that you have, spent over there, and also be able to travel to various other places, probably which is there on your travel list, and meet people, make memories, and make conversations. And I hope. We'll get to kind of share another conversation with you about your travel and your travel stories. So thank you,
Yeah.
Sumit, for joining me in today.
Well, I would like to mention something
Yes,
before.
sure.
Yeah, uh, as I was talking about anxiety and depression and how this lockdown phase transformed me, as far as the terms anxiety and depression is concerned with, I was never a firm believer of depression at all. Whenever I used to hear about mental illness or people going into depression, I always used to be like, how in the world can someone go into depression? It's like not at all possible. But once someone faces it personally, or when someone actually studies about it, like not like study, I don't mean like reading books or something on it. It's just that you experience it. And this lockdown, I bet for anyone who is listening to us right now, I I bet that you must have gone through a particular phase in this lockdown where you weren't yourself. You just felt like I want to go out because of the restraints. Everyone felt very anxious because of the very fact that you were restrained in your houses and you weren't able to go out and express yourself. The daily life was completely out of place. So yes, I bet I am 100% sure that in future we will discuss about this in great description. But as far as my experience is concerned, this particular thing is not to be taken lightly. It is something which we all need to deal with, and it has to be dealt with absolute precision.
Thank you, Sumit, for this wonderful message and for raising this sensitive and a very pertinent issue. And I'm sure, like everybody, would like to hear more on this. And I hope that nobody takes it lightly and they treat it with utmost care. And the person, whoever is going through this, and this is something everybody at some point of time they go through. So one shouldn't feel alone or isolated as far as depression is concerned. Thank you for being with me here today. Thank
It
you.
was indeed my pleasure, rather, to be in your podcast. Thank you for inviting me, and I'll be more than happy to be back on your podcast.
Oh, sure, definitely. Thank you, Sumir. It was amazing having this conversation with you and for being here. I hope you'll join me again for another round of conversation. Thank you once again. Dear listeners, in the upcoming episodes, there'll be discussion around exams and the fear and anxiety students are experiencing as they have to step out of their houses and travel far in the middle of this pandemic, and how they can cope with this anxiety. If you have a story to share, then do write to me at e-logue2020 at the rate gmail.com, or leave a comment on my YouTube channel or a voice note on Anchor or Spotify. The links are available in the description box. So stay tuned to hear more stories. Thank you for listening to us and meet you all next week.